Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win, or you find a way to lose. And if you're Canelo Alvarez, you're finding a way to win, and taking it all the way to the bank. And if you're Al Haymon, you're finding a way to win, and taking it all the way to the bank as well as a promoter. And then you just happen to have this little guy who's from a place called Omaha, Nebraska, who just kind of fumbled his way into becoming an undisputed champion in two different weight divisions, and who has just kind of fumbled his way as cementing himself as being the pound-for-pound best fighter in the sport of boxing. And let me tell you something. This same guy from Omaha, Nebraska, that nobody wants to give any credit to, he just happened to fumble his way into probably the biggest fight purse that's beyond his imagination, but probably the biggest fight purse, I would say, outside of Mayweather, would probably be the biggest fight purse anyone at 147 pounds has made. Now, for those of you who are wondering, okay, look, man, what are you getting at? Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm getting at. Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford are inching closer and closer to that fight becoming a reality. Now, if you just pay attention to how things are shaping up, I think you'll, if you don't agree, at least you'll understand where I'm coming from. Now, back in, I think it was like 2021, Canelo Alvarez, it was a question posed to him about Terence Crawford and fighting Terence Crawford. And I think Canelo took a bit of offense to that inquiry, because the way he responded was, Terence Crawford's a good fighter, but he's fought nobody. Who's on his resume? Who has he fought? So even he dismissed Crawford, his resume. Now, he did say Crawford's a good fighter, but he dismissed his resume, basically saying he's a good fighter who's fought nobody. How's he going to look? Suggesting that when he does step up to fight somebody, the question is, how will Crawford look? But nonetheless, for Crawford to come and get that win that he was able to achieve against Errol Spence, well, I'll tell you what, Crawford has one of the biggest names in the sport of boxing on his resume now. So when they were talking about fighting, this is where y'all got to pay attention. Remember, all the talk was about Errol Spence and how big Errol Spence is. And Errol Spence talking about going up and fighting Canelo. And a lot of people felt that Errol Spence would have, if not defeated Canelo, but would have been an extremely tough task for Saul Canelo Alvarez. Well, not many people are thinking that now as a result of Errol Spence's underperforming against Terence Crawford. So now the conversation turned to Crawford and Canelo. Crawford initially said didn't want to go up past 158. Canelo said he wouldn't even entertain fighting Crawford. Crawford talked about Gervonta Davis coming up to 147, but then Crawford said, look, weight division for a reason. Canelo Alvarez echoed what Crawford said. He's like, same thing with Crawford and Gervonta. Crawford coming up to 168. His weight classes for a reason. And Canelo totally killed the idea of him going down to 160. He said he just can't get to 160 anymore. Fights had to be at 168. But Canelo felt like it was a lose-lose situation for him. At least that's how he was talking, right? But when you look at Al Haymon and you look at Canelo, it'll help you to understand how come all of a sudden now Crawford is talking about, I'll go to 168. And you'll understand now what Canelo's like. If he comes to 168, I'll fight him. Have y'all not asked the question, what is or who is behind this potential match firming up? And who is the person advising Crawford and Canelo to talk about potentially making that fight at 168. And what gives Crawford the confidence that he can fight Canelo at 168 and be effective? Now, I'm going to tell you this. When it comes to weight, I'm going to tell you from experience, and I'll also tell you, because I think I share the same sentiment that a lot of professional boxers. You know, size matters. The weight, it matters. But at the end of the day, skills, speed, footwork, intelligence pays the bills. Okay? Very simple. And when you look at Crawford, and first of all, did anyone not think to themselves that Crawford is looking better, sharper, faster, overall, just performing at an advanced age better than he was when he was younger? That's all I'm getting at. I mean, we need to pay attention to that. That being said, him going up against Canelo, we can't just count him out. But you look at Canelo Alvarez, and for those of you who are saying, why would Al Haymon think to try to make this fight? What exactly is going on here? Well, it's pimping, baby. Big pimping. Spending cheese. It's what it is. Y'all got to understand, man, just remember when Canelo fought Shane Mosley? Canelo only earned $1.2 million when he fought Shane Mosley. And I believe that fight was on the, because Canelo's always fought on the undercard of Mayweather's fights. That was Mayweather and Cotto pay-per-view. But Canelo, popularity continued to grow. Remember, when he fought Shane Mosley, he made $1.2 million. But as a result of that popularity growing and such a demand for Floyd Mayweather and Canelo to fight, kind of like the demand is growing for Canelo and Bud to fight, Canelo found himself fighting Mayweather for $12 million. Man got paid $12 million to fight Mayweather. Big difference from $1.2 million against Shane Mosley. Anyway, after that, you saw Canelo go on, man. And all of a sudden now, this man making $25 million per fight for Gennady Golovkin and Julio Cesar Chavez. You think Al Haymon wasn't paying attention of the numbers Canelo's doing? Same way Eddie Hearn was paying attention and everyone else? Everybody wants to pimp each other. They want to get that money. And they want to get the right opponents in there at the right time to make the biggest fight possible, to cash out. Big pimping, baby. But then you look at these kind of deals that are being signed. Canelo went a couple years after fighting Golovkin, and he signed that record-breaking 11-fight deal. $365 million. That deal he's supposed to be making, I believe, is like $35 to $40 million a fight. Some crap happened. After like the second or third fight, some crap happened where lawsuits and stuff like that, and De La Hoya being funny about the money, the zone, not holding up the end of the agreement. Anyway, he came back and signed another agreement with the zone after that for upwards of $100 million. So when you look at him coming over and being with Al Haymon, just to let you guys know, after Canelo fought John Ryder, that fight put Canelo, as far as his career earning paydays, put Canelo over $500 million. Okay? So Canelo is a money machine. But when you look now what Canelo's doing, Canelo, Wilder, AJ, all these elite fighters across all the divisions, right, who've been around for a while, all of the fighters are looking to cash out. So Canelo's over here looking to pimp Al Haymon. He's like, okay, I'm going to come over here. Let's talk about who we're going to fight. I have a lot of say in who I get to pick, but I want to make sure that I'm fighting guys where I can make sure to get this money that is supposed to be a guarantee over $100 million for 3 fights. So you look at, that's a minimum now. I want to make sure you understand that. There's no flat. That's a minimum. So Canelo's like, okay, I'm going to fight Jermell. Now, a lot of people think Jermell will lose that fight, right? I personally think Jermell has what it takes to beat him. Nonetheless, if you're thinking with your brain, you're going to say Canelo beats Jamel. I mean, I can understand that. But I'm thinking with my brain and heart, and I think Jamel has a chance. But nonetheless, let's say Canelo tranquilizes him, right? Now Canelo has a second fight on the table. He's got to fight somebody. Now you got Crawford in the breeze. He's supposed to be fighting Spence. We don't know if that's going to happen, right? Then Crawford has Boots Ennis breathing down his neck. But we know how the secret society works. We know how the Al Haymons work. We know how the Mauricio Sulmans work. And we know if you grease the palms of the WBO, IBF, the WBA, they tend to kind of quiet down a little bit. And we'll see certain things happen in the boxing community with fights, and we just don't understand. I have no doubt that Crawford will be able to circumvent the system with Al Haymon behind him, the secret society behind him, the sanctioning bodies behind him. And he'll be able to land that Canelo fight if the Spence fight doesn't come through. They're talking about it. Crawford's talking about it. Canelo's talking about it. Al Haymon's there in the cut like always, not saying nothing, but he's advising because that's his job, right? And he happens to have his hands on Canelo, and I know Crawford realizes there's nowhere else for him to go to try to make fights on his own. So Canelo's going to sit there and take that fight, and they're going to spin it as Canelo is over there on PBC fighting all the undisputed champions. That's what they're going to spin it. So he's fighting Jamel, undisputed versus undisputed. Then he's going to fight Crawford. It's going to be undisputed versus undisputed again. And what people are going to be surprised at is that Crawford, people think he's small. Earl Spence has convinced the world that Terence Crawford is really light in the butt. Terence Crawford walks around probably 185 pounds. Him coming down to 168, that's just 3 weight divisions shy of where he normally comes down to. So it's not that he has to gain weight to get to 168. No, that's just a weight division he normally passes on his way down to the weight cut to 147. All right, so let's hold our horses and not take it to the stupid. But Canelo Alvarez is going to look to make the biggest fight. And you know what? For him to be entertaining it, he sat back and he thought, let's be honest, people. Let's be honest. When it comes to a business standpoint, right? I say the secret society has everything to do with it. But some people think I'm wrong. They say it's just business, not the secret society. I think it's more secret society than business. Who can Canelo fight over there at PBC that would give him the biggest payday? Right? He only has 3 fights. Got this first one, he's going to get that out the way. After that, he got to fight somebody. Outside of Jamel Charlo, right? You're getting past that. Who over there can he fight to make huge money? Some people say, David Benavidez. David Benavidez and Canelo, that's a great fight. That'll probably make some money, but that ain't huge money. Not for what they need to really create the kind of buzz that's necessary. I don't think Canelo versus Benavidez is a bigger fight, talking from a financial perspective, than Bud Crawford. The biggest fight that can be made, in which Canelo may feel is a bit of an easy fight, the biggest fight that can be made is Crawford. Believe you me, they're not going to allow Terence Crawford and Canelo, they're not going to allow that fight to get away. That fight's going to get made. And believe you me, if Earl Spence would have beat Terence Crawford, oh man, Earl Spence and Canelo will be the fight they're talking about. It just so happens, marketability-wise, I think Terence Crawford, his profile has grown big time, but it's still not Earl Spence. But what makes the fight interesting is that you have Earl Spence. The world knows he can scrap. That performance he just came off of with Earl Spence, those who didn't believe, they now believe. Still a couple people out there who don't quite get it. And I understand. But I'm telling you right now, if they're going to make a Canelo Crawford fight, the time is now. Crawford is coming off on a career best performance against some people felt was the best fighter in the sport of boxing, pound for pound, and made it look easy. Crawford can't afford to go fight a Tim Tszyu and look average against Tim Tszyu and then try to build up a Crawford-Canelo fight. It just doesn't work that way. It's like Anthony Joshua fighting Jermaine Franklin, and then he comes and fights Robert Helenius, and now they're trying to hype it up. AJ versus Deontay Wilder. It just doesn't have the same pizzazz as it had when they were both undefeated and both out there tranquilizing people. Still interesting. We'll still watch it, but it doesn't have that buzz. It doesn't capture the imagination like it once did. And I think right now, Crawford and Canelo captures the imagination. But if Crawford comes out here and he looks less than stellar against whether it's Spence, a Tim Tszyu, or whoever it is he's going to fight, Boots, Ennis, whoever, I just think that kind of kills his buzz. But if he comes out here and he tranquilizes whoever the hell he has to fight while he waits to fight Canelo, Terence Crawford's profile and platform and everything is just going to go through the damn roof. I don't think it's quite gone through the roof yet. And for Canelo Alvarez, if he gets in here with Jamel and totally tranquilizes him, well, then he's back. Because remember, Canelo has lost some of his steam as well with some of these lackluster performances that he's had. But he said you can attribute those poor performances to injuries. But we'll see. But the bottom line is, Canelo's going to get his money. He's going to pimp Al Haymon for the biggest fight possible, the biggest money possible. Because Canelo has gone on record and said he wants to become a billionaire from boxing. He is on his way. That's why this man said he had, I think he said, 7 more years of boxing, 7 more fights in 7 more years. Something like 7 more years or something. Something crazy he said. But anyway, Canelo going to make his $1 billion. And Al Haymon, he pimping Canelo because he realizes he has an opportunity of a lifetime to take the cash cow of the sport of boxing and line him up with some of his fighters to make the most money possible. Because Canelo, after he's done with these 3 fights with PBC, he's going to be looking to go to where the next highest bidder is at. And he may go back to Eddie Hearn. But we don't know. Because Al Haymon is smooth. Al Haymon delivers. And he just may keep Canelo over there and keep making these great fights. But Canelo's going to have to keep winning. And that's where the secret society is going to have to make a decision on if they want to sit there now and sacrifice Canelo and make David Benavidez the next face of boxing. Is it going to be Terence Crawford? Or who is it going to be? Because if Canelo leaves Al Haymon and he really starts to slow and his skill set starts to deteriorate, you may see Jaime Munguia come along and clip Canelo, and then Munguia and Golden Boy, but then they're back. And Munguia's on his way and he becomes the face of boxing. And he, for the most part, alleviates Canelo Alvarez of his position, the face of boxing in Mexico, and now it's Jaime Munguia. So Al Haymon's a smart guy, and I think they're going to do what's best for them. But the bottom line is, Haymon and Canelo, they're pimping each other. It's all about money. Big pimping, baby. Spending cheese. And Canelo and Terence Crawford, he just happened to fumble his way into position so he can go along with the ride. And I truly believe Crawford can end up making 40, 50 million fighting Canelo Alvarez. If he looks good, Crawford looks good in his next fight. If he has a fight someone before him and Canelo can work things out. And if Canelo looks good against Jamel, I just think Canelo has an uphill battle with Jamel. I just don't think it's going to be easy for Canelo. With that being said, if they make that fight, Crawford versus Canelo, and they both still have this buzz surrounding them, I'm telling y'all, man, it's a big, big money fight. You may see the pay-per-view numbers hit 2 million. You may see that happen. Everyone, I think, across the world is going to get behind this fight. And I already know that, Terence Crawford He's got the right connections. That's what Canelo needs to be careful what he's getting himself into. I'll just leave it as that. But for those of you who are just curious, how much money has Canelo been making? For John Ryder, Canelo made $35 million. Golovkin in that third fight, he made $50 million. Against Bivol, Canelo made $50 million. Against Caleb Plant, Canelo made $45 million. Against Billy Joe Saunders, he made $35 million. Against Avni Yildirim, he made $35 million. Against Caleb Smith, he made $35 million. Against Sergey Kovalev, he made $35 million. Against Daniel Jacobs, he made $35 million. Against Rocky Fielding, he made $35 million. Against Gennady Golovkin, out of the second fight, he made $25 million. Against Gennady Golovkin in the first fight, he made $25 million. Against Chavez Jr., he made $25 million. Liam Smith, he made $15 million. Amir Khan, he made $20 million. Miguel Cotto, he made $20 million. James Kirkland, he made $3.5 million. Against Erislandy Lara, he made $7.5 million. Against Angulo, he made $7 million. Floyd Mayweather, he made $12 million. Austin Trout, he made $2.5 million. Josecito Lopez, he made $2 million. Against Shane Mosley, he made $1.2 million. Canelo Alvarez is out here getting paid. Anyway, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. Big pimpin', baby. Spending cheese. I'm in the breeze.